we going to do this day without any plans? And that way, anything that happens today will be a good thing. So it's Earth Day today. What's today's date? Traveling the world and getting around to see different parts of the planet and different cultures may seem out of reach for a lot of people. I know it was for me, because traveling by myself anywhere made me feel a little bit nervous. But it doesn't have to be. If that is something that you really want to do, there are so many possibilities and they are endless. Maybe you're somebody that don't have a lot of friends, or maybe you're single and just having somebody to go with you is just not at your disposal. So you may have to do it alone if you actually want to do it. You know what? So many people are actually doing solo travel now. People are really getting out of their comfort zone and being able to do it. I know that a lot of people still might go through some of their feelings of being nervous or scared or worried or just fearful in general, but there are actually a lot more people doing it now than ever. You have to just take the leap and step out on faith and know that it's going to be okay if we make the decision to take a trip somewhere by ourselves. Because you know what? Life is way too short and time is of the essence. And so if you're going to do it, you need to be able to do it now. What I'm going to share with you in this video is just some of the things that keep people from actually stepping out, and the things that people had to really get to a point where they had to overcome it in order to be able to do this. So I'm gonna take y'all along with me, and I'm gonna give you a few tips on how to really just find a way to enjoy yourself, even if you're single and even if you have to do it solo. So let's get started. But before I go venturing out to see the world in my little town, I need to eat. Because I make poor decisions when I'm hungry or when I have to go to the bathroom. And of course, I would spill something on my shirt. Let me go change so I can get out of here. Okay, now I'm really ready. If you think about it, you do a lot of things alone anyway. You go to the store by yourself, you go to a takeout by yourself, you do a lot of different things by yourself. And I wonder if you think about feeling weird because you're doing those things by yourself. I'm doing this mostly just so I know where the heck I came into this place. So here I am, trying to find my way around. See, nobody cares. People are just enjoying themselves, and so can you. Right? And since I'm going on a weekday, middle of the week, Wednesday, I don't have to deal with crowds anyway. One, you're worried about people staring at you when you're out and about. Well, be honest with you, most people don't really care. Most people are not paying attention to you anyway. And those that are looking, you'll never know what they're thinking about. So what difference does it make? And here's a real tip. They're not gonna see you anymore after that vacation. So why care? So I'm done in there and I had a great time. Very nice art. And hopefully, if you're ever in Atlanta, you give it a try. So I got this table, but you usually need a reservation, but I have to be out by 6. It was quarter of 5 when they set me down. So I'm okay with that because I don't need to be here any longer than I have to because of where I had to park. Maybe you feel a little awkward, like somewhere, maybe in a restaurant or something where you're sitting alone and sometimes they sit you in the middle of the daggone restaurant. And that's happened to me. But if for those occasions, maybe that'd be a good time for you to bring a book or just something that occupy your mind so you're not trying to pay attention to who might be looking at you. Because the reality is you're worried about somebody staring at you. Maybe you're staring at them. Like you're so busy looking at them, worried about whether or not they're looking at you, and you're the one being awkward, right? So focus on something that you want to do while you're sitting at your table. So I just finished my meal. Oh my gosh, it was divine. That's it right back there. Yeah, and of course I made a big mess. Oh my gosh, do I need to wear a bib or something when I go out to eat? Because this is ridiculous. I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful day, and I'm just thrilled that I actually did this today. And I did it for the benefit of showing people that it can be done and you can get over your fears when you do it. So, short story. See, when I was getting older and my kids were starting to move out of the home, I was getting to the point where I was like an empty nester and I didn't have as many people around me. My relationships may have ended. My friends moved to different states. And so my circle got smaller and smaller, but yet I still wanted to travel. And the thing is I decided to start my practice as a mental health professional, but through telehealth. And the reason that I did it that way is so that I could take more trips. And if I happened to stay longer, it was okay because I could work from home. So I had to figure out what was it going to take for me to just go out there and live life and not be so fearful and not so nervous as a reason and let that be the reason why I didn't do anything. I just had to start overcoming them fears. I had to just get through it, and I had to do it while scared, while anxious, while nervous. If you actually work from home, are you able to take a trip and not be in the state where you reside and do the work from another location? And if that's the case, make sure you think about the time zones, because the time zone is going to affect whether or not you are able to really do the job in your hotel or at that location that you're at. So let's start with the obvious. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Do you have the vacation time to go? And what will it take to get ready to go? So let me put a few things out there, and I want to know if this is you and this is part of the reason why you haven't traveled. One of the biggest issues for me was always being nervous and wondering about what might go wrong if I'm by myself. To the point where it's like, oh my goodness, if I'm playing this thing, is it going to get dark by the time I'm finished with it? You know, how far will the hotel be from where I'm at or where I'm coming from? I had all these silly worries that just didn't make a difference at all. But the thing is, they were real, and they caused me to have anxiety or high stress as a result in preparing to go. So I would say that a lot of people that are very nervous about traveling alone, they actually end up having what I consider like pre-travel anxiety. And as a mental health professional, I know that that anxiety, that stress is real, and it's real to the person that's experiencing it, because they're in their head and they're worried about all the things that could go wrong and might go wrong. They even worry about the weather to the point where it's like, maybe this is not the right time to go. And if they're watching the news or something like that, if they see anything related to the state or the country where they're going, then they say, well, you know what, this is not the best time to go, so I'm gonna put this off. More and more reasons to not do the thing that they actually want to do. Maybe visiting a cafe and sitting alone in a cafe, seeing what that feels like. Maybe going to the movies, maybe going to a play or a show or something, and just do it alone, but do it locally. And that way you can, for one, see if it's really about being somewhere that's familiar, or is it really just about you being at a place by yourself. And when you understand what the issue is really, then you can work on adjusting that. Maybe people get concerned about not being in a familiar place. Well, maybe that's a good time to start locally. Start going places alone by yourself in the state where you live, in the city that you live in. Some places may be way too crowded for you, right? And I know that that's an issue for me. So some places, when it's a whole big crowd and there's a lot of people there, I get overly stimulated. As an introvert, I can't deal with too much of a lot of things going on all the time. And so I can become very overstimulated, and that makes it even more difficult for me to actually decide to step out there. So if I'm thinking about, planning a trip, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be really, really crowded and I'm not gonna be able to deal with that, then I might push the trip off at a later date. But the thing is, you really cannot predict, what the crowd is gonna be like. But the thing is, you can allow yourself to maybe just do one activity that day for something that is really going to have a lot of people, or be very overstimulating. So you don't really have to worry about what the crowd is going to be like, because you're not going to be able to predict that. And you don't know what might be happening where you're going that is going to be a larger crowd than expected, or whether or not something else might be happening in the area that may produce a bigger crowd. Another thing that I've realized that I used to do before, when I started this traveling by myself, is booking too many events back to back. So I might take a trip to, say, Kentucky to visit my kids, and then 2 weeks later I got a trip to go somewhere else. Well, I may need a little bit more of a gap in between, just to get my bearings right, and just to recollect and get refilled up at home, at my home base, before I go to another place. Now, when I took my trip to Europe, I know that I was trying to plan a lot of different things every day that I was there. But what I learned is that it is better to plan maybe certain small things each day, as opposed to, I'm gonna get all this done, I'm gonna see all of these things, I'm gonna do all this stuff, because in reality that might be too overstimulating, and that might wear you out a lot quicker, making you feel like you're burnt out and you just want to cut the trip short. So spread everything out, and don't think that you have to see all the sights the entire trip, right? Because after a while, having your body overly stimulated like that for a full day of activities, you could actually not really enjoy everything as much as you could have had you spread it out. I sure hope that helped out someone out there that might can relate to what I shared in the video. If it did, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, put notifications on, and look forward to some other travel videos that are coming up right after this. In the meantime, y'all, good mental health, good spiritual health, and as always, good physical health. Y'all take great care.